Senator Thune, figure out a way to pass the SAVE Act. For God's sake, if it means getting rid of the filibuster, do it. If it means making Democrats talk to their blue in the face until they're out of oxygen, trying to explain to the American people that they'd rather do that than make sure that non-citizens aren't voting, just do that. Just get it done. And by the way, I am not a paid conservative influencer. Chuck Schumer went ballistic about the SAVE Act. I think he's scared. I think it might happen. We'll show you exactly what happened with Chuck Schumer and what John Thune, our leader, had to say about the SAVE Act as well, coming up in a moment. And Abby Phillips, well, she either had a Ron Burgundy moment where she's admitting now that she's a complete moron and she just says whatever's on the teleprompter, or she lied to her viewers. It's one or the other. You decide. Could be both. That's coming up in just a moment. Plus, great fireworks yesterday. A dyed-in-the-wool Cato libertarian who literally wants us to have open borders ran into a buzzsaw known as Republicans who, well, handed him his hat, as they like to say. That's all coming up right now. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. I am paid, but not by anybody who tells me to push the SAVE Act. And I'm not an influencer. I'm a show host, and I'm happy to do it. Yesterday, the steam was sort of getting behind and momentum was growing for senators to finally, what's the word I'm looking for, do their job and bring the SAVE Act to the floor for a vote. But then will it be able to withstand a filibuster from Democrats who really don't want to pass this thing that over 80% of Americans and over 90% of Republicans want done? Well, that's the question everyone in D.C. is asking themselves today. So let's get to it. We'll start at the beginning, or kind of the beginning. 2 days ago, when John Thune was asked, what's going on here? Why aren't you bringing this thing to the floor? Because 90+% of Republicans want this thing to happen. He said this. I asked Thune if he feels pressure to pass Save America Act mounting. He said a lot of that it's in the kind of, paid influencer ecosystem, he said. Adds there's support among GOP senators, but the process and how do you ultimately try and get a result is still unclear to me. He's the leader of the Republicans in the Senate. And last I checked, he wanted the job. And now I don't know how to get it done. I just want to remind you that a majority of Republicans in the Senate have signed on to sponsor, not just support it, to sponsor this bill. And the president is demanding it happens. And can I also point out, this is an election year. There are Democrats who are running for re-election in their states who have to face their voters and tell them, that's right, I ground the process to a halt and I stood and I talked for hours and hours to block a bill that would confirm that only U.S. citizens vote in these elections. Why do we not want Democrats to have to deal with that? Why do we not want to make a video ad of John Ossoff from Atlanta, the state of Georgia, standing in the well of the Senate, blocking this bill? Do you think the voters in Georgia want John Ossoff, their senator, to block a bill that makes sure that only citizens are voting? I don't think so. Seems to me that's a good political move, but what do I know? I'm just a non-paid show host here. I'm not part of the paid influencer ecosystem. What an insult to every one of the 90+% Republicans who want this thing to be done. Then late yesterday, he was asked specifically about what the strategy was when he brings this to the floor. And, well, see if you can make sense of this.
Do you run a risk of being on the wrong side of President Trump in your resistance to do this talking filibuster, tying the Senate in knots for weeks?
Hold on. Sorry, can't let that stand. Did you hear how the question was framed? Let's start at the beginning.
Do you run a risk of being on the wrong side of President Trump in your
Do you run a risk of being on the wrong side of President Trump? 90+% of Republicans want this bill passed. That should stand for something. That should mean something. Senator Thune, as the leader of the Republicans in the Senate, should really be concerned about that, not being on the wrong side of President Trump. But what do I know? I don't have one of those journalism degrees. I don't know how to ask questions like reporters in D.C. do. So really, the framing has to be that he's on the wrong side of President Trump. But then listen to the tail part of the question.
The resistance to do this talking filibuster, tying the Senate in knots for weeks.
Do you run the risk of being on the wrong side of Donald Trump, which of course would end up tying the Senate in knots for weeks? Boy, there's a whole lot of presumption baked into that question. And it all serves the Democrats' talking points. Look at them. They're tying. Okay, you tell me what's worse, tying the Senate up in knots for weeks by insisting that we have a law that proves that anyone who votes in this country is a U.S. citizen? Or work with me here, is it actually worse politically to tie the Senate up in knots for weeks by insisting we don't have a law that confirms that we only have citizens who are voting in this country? Yeah, that's the question. All right, so what's the answer, Senator Thune?
We don't have the votes either to proceed, get on a talking filibuster, nor to sustain one if we got on it. But that is just a function of math. And there isn't anything I can do about that. I mean, I understand the president's got a passion to see this issue addressed, as we all do.
Does he understand that, though?
Well, we've conveyed that to him, but we'll continue to make that argument because I think it's important that everybody understand that this really is about the votes, it's about the math. And I'm for better or worse, I'm the one who has to be the clear-eyed realist about what we can achieve here. And so we'll continue to convey that. And I think that we're going to have the fight on the floor. We're going to vote on this. We're going to put it up, and we'll give the Democrats the opportunity to cast their vote on whether or not they think non-citizens ought to vote in American elections. And so that debate will happen. But like I said, I can guarantee the debate. I can guarantee a vote. I just can't guarantee an outcome.
All right, so that is that's the Senate leadership, by the way. John Thune, he's the majority leader of the Senate, but all the other people around him as part of the leadership. It's funny, 4 years ago, you know who would be standing there as part of the leadership team? John Cornyn, senator from Texas. But he got himself out of leadership when he realized that he was going to have to run for re-election and answer for his participation in great moments like this. So he left leadership, and now he's acting like he's all behind the SAVE Act. But of course, he's not doing anything to get it done. Now, here's what John Thune is saying, and let me try to break this down for you. He says he doesn't have the votes to sustain the filibuster, forcing the Democrats to stand in the well of the Senate and have them talk till they're blue in the face all hours of the night. Mr. Smith goes to Washington, block this thing from ever happening. But again, you know, when Democrats stand on the floor of the Senate to block things like that and use the filibuster, they tend to block things like, you know, the abolition of slavery when they're not taking up arms and trying to kill members of the United States Army on behalf of ensuring slavery stays in their states. Or they'll stand and do a filibuster blocking the Voting Rights Act or the Civil Rights Act. This is the kind of thing they do. Ultimately, it doesn't really help them politically in the long run. I could be wrong. Again, I've never run for office. But you know who has run for office? Donald Trump. Donald Trump might know a thing or two about winning tough elections, tight elections against Democrats. I would venture to say that Donald Trump knows more about politics and winning tough elections than this guy does. John Thune is a senator from South Dakota. He won that seat, and since then, he has not had a tough election since. So who are you going to listen to about what might be a good political play? Donald Trump or John Thune? Now, John Thune says that he does not have the effective leadership qualities in place to be able to keep his caucus of Republicans together. He didn't put it in those words, but that's what he's telling you. When he says we don't have the votes, well, I mean, last I checked, they've got a majority, 52, plus a tiebreaker with the vice president. So if he doesn't have the votes, it means that he does not have the leadership qualities to keep his caucus together and stay focused and stay disciplined to make sure that you vote to squash anything that the Democrats are bringing to the table during their filibuster. Okay, that's fine. So if you can't do that, here's what you can do. Do away with the filibuster, right? The filibuster is an arcane rule that is not in the Constitution, and it's put in place to allow the minority to block certain pieces of legislation from going forward. I've given you some examples of things that have been blocked in the past. The Democrats have already said that when they gain the majority, they will do away with the filibuster. And I know they're going to do it because last time they had the majority, they tried to do it. Two people stood in their way. Kyrsten Sinema, independent senator from Arizona, and Joe Manchin, Democrat senator from West Virginia. They were the two voices that blocked Democrats when they had the majority from doing away with the filibuster. Both of them are gone. Both of them are retired. Read the room. They're going to do it. Of course they are. So why not we do it first and get stuff done? The guy put together this great graphic to explain exactly the loser mentality that we're dealing with right now. On the left side of your screen is from The Economist. They put together a graph that showed the use of cloture votes, filibuster votes, to block things from happening by the minority party. The blue would be Democrats, the red would be Republicans. Since the mid-'60s, when it started to be used to stop things like allowing, the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, things that Democrats really opposed because they really loved their segregation. Since then, look at the usage and how it's escalated. And in the last several years, look at the blue. Look at the blue and the number of cloture votes that they have employed without actually having to stand there and talk until they're blue in the face. That's how it's being used now by Democrats. Everyone says, oh, you can't do away with the filibuster. That would be unprecedented. That's pretty freaking unprecedented right there, what you're seeing. They're audacious. They use these things without any apology, which brings us to the loser logic. You've got the majority, and you don't use your majority to end the filibuster. And then, because of that, you're going to lose the majority soon. And then you hope and pray that the Democrats don't end the filibuster. But so what's going to happen is this November, there's going to be certain Republican senators, either John Cornyn or Ken Paxton, who wants to be a senator from Texas. But let's say it's John Cornyn for a second because he's responsible for this, right? So you got John Cornyn there. You've got Susan Collins up in Maine, right? You've got, you don't have an incumbent in North Carolina, but it could be Tom Tillis, let's say, right, who's currently in the majority, although he's not running for re-election in North Carolina. You've got, what are the other states? Ohio. That's an open seat, right? Actually, is it? I'm not sure. I apologize for not knowing that 100%. But you've got these Republican senators. And these are the states that I just named are the states where Democrats, I'm told, have a chance of flipping, right? And turning that red state blue. And those Republicans, like Susan Collins in Maine or John Cornyn in Texas, they're going to go to voters and they say, you got to vote for me. You got to keep Republicans in the majority. You got to keep me in the majority. And if I'm a voter in those states, and the Republican majority right now allows this thing that has 90+% support amongst Republicans to just die, and they don't do anything to actually try to push this through. If I'm one of those voters and they come to me and they say, you got to keep me in the majority, my response is, why? Why? You're in the majority now. What are you doing with it? What are you doing with it? That's loser mentality. Oh, well, we can't have a talking filibuster. We'll just let the Democrats phone it in. They've raised their flag that said filibuster time, and we're going to go ahead with it. We're not going to make them work for it. We're not going to make them sweat bullets. We're not going to make them go down and talk until they're blue in the face, because that's never worked, not since 1893. Well, I guess that's true. According to this guy, Fred Bauer, he's put this out. In 1893, there was a colossal filibuster over the repeal of the Sherman Silver Purchase Act. It went on for months, but eventually the filibustering minority eventually gave up, and the repeal went to the president's desk. So they filibustered, and filibustered, and the other guys said, no, we're gonna hold tight, and it went on for months, and ultimately they gave up. So I guess the question here is, if that's what happens now, who's going to give up first? Who's going to be on the right side of history? The party that wants to make sure that only citizens are voting, or the party that wants to make sure that anybody can vote? Well, if you listen to the Democrats, they claim that they are ready to die on this hill. Their words, not mine.
That's their goal. That's their goal, to make sure that only the, quote, right people are voting, to elect, quote, the right leaders. We're not going to stand for it. I will die on the Hill to make sure it doesn't get out of the Senate.
I'm sure that he's just using rhetorical flourishes here. I don't think he's willing to die to make sure the non-citizens can vote, but I wouldn't put it past him. That's Senator Padilla from California. You remember him last when he crashed Kristi Noem's press conference and got escorted out in a aggressive way. But understand the language being used.
That's
here.
their goal. That's their goal, to make sure that only the, quote, right people are voting.
Only the, quote, right people are voting. No, only citizens are voting. I mean, you could describe it as right people. I mean, when you go to vote, there are right people voting and wrong people voting. Who are the wrong people voting? The people who are, not supposed to vote, that the law prohibits from voting. That would be people breaking the law. Yeah, that would be the wrong people voting. We don't want them voting. Why do you want them voting? Which brings us to Chuck Schumer. Before we get to Chuck Schumer, though, die on the Hill. They want to die on this hill. They want to die on the hill of making sure that non-citizens can vote. Somebody's going to die on a hill. Either Democrats die on the hill of making sure that non-citizens can vote in this country and there's no law prohibiting it, or Republicans will die on the hill making sure that we have a law keeping non-citizens from voting, that only citizens vote in this country. If you had to die on a hill, which hill would you die on? One of those hills is clearly superior to the other. I think it would be perfectly fine for if Republicans are going to die on a hill, for freaking sake, die on that hill. Because they are desperate and they are terrified, and that should tell you something. Listen to the fear in Chuck Schumer's voice here as he learns now that this thing will be moving on for a vote next week. And be very, very clear here. When you hear, when he says that this isn't about photo ID, he's right. It's about registering to vote. He's acting like that's some revelation. No, that's 100% what we want. We want to make sure that only citizens are registered to vote. What's wrong with that? Why do we have to be defensive about wanting that?
He said if Republicans can pass the SAVE Act, it'll guarantee the midterms. Let me read that again. Donald Trump says if Republicans pass the SAVE Act, it'll guarantee the midterms.
Well, that's right, because Republicans will win the midterms for two reasons. Number one, only citizens are voting, and the fact that you have a concern about that tells me that you're counting on non-citizens voting. And number two, because Republicans will want to reward the senators and congressmen for doing what they wanted. Of course it's going to help them politically if they actually go back to their voters and saying, you wanted us to do this, and we did it. That's how you win in politics. So when the president says this guarantees we're going to win, what he's saying is this is going to make our voters thrilled to vote for us. Because, Donald Trump is old school. He thinks if you tell the voters you're going to do something, you should do it. So when he says this will guarantee a victory, that's what he means. But, Chuck Schumer, he sees something much more nefarious in those words.
This is outrageous. Undermine democracy, prevent people from voting in a democracy, and that's the only way you can win. That's not democracy, Donald Trump. That's autocracy. Letting you or Doge or Musk pick who's taken off the rolls and not even notifying them when they show up to vote and they say you're no longer on the rolls, you're purged. That's not democracy. But Donald Trump doesn't believe in democracy. He sees he's losing the election because he's not dealing with the issues Democrats are pounding away on: cost, corruption, chaos.
Cause corruption and chaos. Oh, we've got their ad all set up. All right. So apparently it's undermining democracy, making sure that people who aren't supposed to vote aren't voting. You hear the language being used here. Oh, they're trying to purge people off the voter rolls. No, only non-citizens, dude. So that's what he said just a few moments ago on the well of the Senate. Yesterday, he sort of gave an expanded version of it during a press conference. Listen to the question and answer.
You recently responded to President Trump's Truth Social post regarding the Save America Act, saying that if he's going to not sign any bills until it's passed, because the Senate's going to be in a total gridlock. Can you just explain, isn't this sort of a stab in the back to the American people who 85% of them, 85% of voters support voter ID?
Yes, but their bill isn't voter ID, number one. It is about voter registration.
Okay, so it's both. There is a provision in this bill about photo ID. It's a very simple premise. And if you're engaged in this kind of debate on your Facebook page or on the sideline of the soccer field as you watch 7-year-olds chase a black and white ball around the field and you're talking to other soccer moms or soccer dads, two very, very simple notions. Number one, prove that you're a citizen when you register to vote. And number two, prove you are who you say you are when you go to vote. That's all. Show proof that you're a citizen when you register. That's the only time you got to bring your birth certificate when you register to vote, or your passport, or whatever other forms of ID. The same kind of ID you have to bring to a workplace when you get a job and fill out an I-9 form. So there's nothing new here. It's what everybody who functions in our society has, whether they're married or not. That's number one. And the second premise is, once you go to vote, you pull out your photo ID and you prove that you say that you are who you say you are. That's all. So when Chuck Schumer gets all excited and says, this is about voter registration, you bet your ass it's about voter registration. Because illegal immigrants are registered right now. Because non-citizens are registered. Why are you okay with that? You're damn right it's about voter registration. Why is this a stunning revelation? He's like all angry. Oh, people need to know this. Of course we know. It's why we want it. All right, but keep listening, because this totally backfires on him, because he thinks he's making a point and he's proving our point. Listen.
It allows ICE to kick tens of millions of people off the rolls, and they don't tell them until Election Day, and you show up and you say, you're not registered anymore. You're not registered here. You're not on the rolls. And they say, I didn't know that. This is a bill that destroys the country, and it is not about showing ID when you show up to vote.
It is about showing up to. So there you go. So boys and girls, we're going to play a little game here. All right? Because Chuck Schumer said that ICE, it's not ICE, it's the federal government, and there's going to be various agencies that handle this, whether it's the Justice Department or the Department of Homeland Security, but they're saying ICE and Doge and Elon Musk because they think that those are negative terms in the public. This has all been test marketed, right? They've done a little focus group. People don't like ICE. So ICE is going to be purging people from the voter rolls. It's a lie. It's not ICE. But set it aside for a moment. Boys and girls, play a game with me, shall we? Because Chuck Schumer just said that if the SAVE Act is passed, thus ensuring that only citizens are registered to vote, that's going to result in thousands of people being purged off of the voter rolls. Okay, so let's play a game. You can tell me in the live chat or in the comments section. If the law says that only U.S. citizens are to register to vote, and by passing that law, thousands of people are no longer registered to vote. You tell me down below. Let's put our thinking caps on. Chuck Schumer hasn't figured it out, or maybe he has. Who's going to get purged from the voter rolls if only U.S. citizens are going to be allowed on the voter rolls? Can you answer that question? I think you can. I could be wrong, but it seems to me that if people get purged from the voter rolls because we passed a law saying only citizens should be registered to vote, that means the people purged from the voter rolls are non-citizens. And he is freaked out about it. And he thinks he's making a big point here saying, do you realize what's going to happen? This is going to purge people from the voter rolls. Thank you. You've proven our point. Non-citizens are currently registered to vote. They shouldn't be registered to vote. And when they show up and they find out they've been purged, good, because they shouldn't be voting. So I'm sorry that this little talking point backfired on you, Chuck, because you've only got first-level logic going on. But thank you. It's why we need the SAVE Act. It's why John Thune needs to get off his butt and do his freaking job. And it's why all of us here, and I'm not paid to tell you this, demand that the Senate move this thing forward, even if it means getting rid of the filibuster, because it's an existential threat. Because the fact that Chuck Schumer is this freaked out about it, the fact that Chuck Schumer is openly admitting to you that people are going to get purged from the voter rolls because they're non-citizens is exhibit A through Z, John Thune, as to why you need to get this done. Yesterday, you've got them on the run. Understand the politics of this, at the very least, and then understand the very real results of getting non-citizens off of the voter rolls, because that's actually a good thing, not just for Republicans, for our country. And that's why they're freaked out. And no, I'm not a paid influencer. I'm just a patriotic American who wants our laws followed. I hope John Thune understands that. I fear he doesn't. As America approaches its 250th anniversary, it's worth revisiting one of the most powerful ideas in our founding, the pursuit of happiness. Our founders envisioned the freedom to work hard, raise a family, and worship freely. And here's what the founders didn't mean by the pursuit of happiness: big government programs, handouts. Our friends at Americans for Prosperity believe the pursuit of the American dream is a core part of what makes this country exceptional, and that's why I'm proud to partner with them. If you also believe in the American dream and you want to celebrate what makes America special, go to a250toolkit.com, where Americans are sharing their story of how they're keeping the American dream alive. Real stories about opportunity, sacrifice, and taking responsibility, not waiting around for permission or government handouts. Go to a250toolkit.com to learn more and share your own story, because the American dream isn't a big government program. It's our pursuit of happiness. As you know, there was a terrorist attack in New York City that resulted in two young men screaming Allahu Akbar. They are pledged allegiance to ISIS and affiliated with that radical terrorist group. And, of course, they attempted to kill as many innocent Americans who were protesting outside Mayor Mamdani's Gracie Mansion residence. Now, you know that because you watch this show. You know the facts of this because you follow real news right here. Over at CNN, can't say the same about their writers, their producers, and even one of their very highly paid teleprompter reading hosts, because I don't think they know what happened in New York. Either that or they're just lying to their audience. Now, we're going to show you what happened with Abby Phillip and the lie she told about that terror attack in just a moment. But first, a little bit more on the story out of New York City.
Fox News Digital captured these images of the homes of the two suspects, both located in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Both men are U.S. citizens. One suspect's parents, naturalized U.S. citizens from Turkey, the other naturalized U.S. citizens from Afghanistan. An attorney for Amir Balat on the left said his client was a high school senior with, quote, complicated stuff going on in his personal life. Ibrahim Kayumi on the right graduated from high school in 2024, according to a Pennsylvania school district.
Younger and younger individuals who are radicalizing and mobilizing to violence. And this is taking place against the backdrop of social media, the dynamics of online culture. It's not limited to ISIS, it's across the ideological spectrum.
Both men are being held without bail and are due back in court early next month.
So he was going through a lot of stuff. You know how teenagers are. I mean, there's a lot of pressure there to get the right clothing so you fit in and you don't seem like you're not on trend, you know. And oh, don't even get me started on your physical appearance and whether you're fit and athletic and got the right hairstyle. And oh, of course, whether you've joined the right terror cell for ISIS. What do you mean he's a teenager and he was going through a lot? He pledged allegiance to ISIS and said he wanted to kill as many people as possible. And screamed Allahu Akbar as he threw the bomb. They, thank God, didn't explode. And you heard the Deputy Commissioner for Intelligence for New York City say, this isn't isolated to ISIS or anything. It could be any extreme ideology. But it's not. It was ISIS. And Zohran Mamdani, he's doing whatever he can to deflect from that very real fact. It's almost like he doesn't want to acknowledge that there seems to be a history of violence and terrorist attacks involving bombs and blowing up innocent New Yorkers, all going back to ISIS or Al-Qaeda or Hamas or Hezbollah or fill in the blank of your radical Islamic terror organization. But he was asked about that, and listen to his answer. Watch the dance here. This is worthy of Sean Spicer on Dancing with the Stars.
So given that both of the alleged attackers at Gracie said they were inspired by ISIS, and given New York City's sort of perennial status as a soft target, I was wondering if you had any, words of advice to any young people who might find themselves being drawn to that particular ideology.
I think first and foremost, just to make it clear to everyone that extremism and hatred of any kind will not be tolerated in our city. And that is regardless of whatever ideology motivates any person to commit an act of violence. There is no tolerance for it here. What we want to deliver to New Yorkers is a city that is safe, is a city that believes in the values where everyone who calls it home is considered to be a part of it. There is no tolerance for any kind of violence within that vision of our city or the way in which we lead this city. Okay,
so I think in that 45-second answer, he 3, maybe 4 times said the same thing over and over again, was that any extremism of any kind, regardless of the ideology, regardless of this, regardless of that, and sure, I get it, but it wasn't any ideology. It wasn't any extremism. It was very specific, and New York City has a bit of a history with this specific kind of ideology inspiring a violent attack. And here's the thing. I know that everybody says that it's not fair to Zohran Mamdani to put him in this spot because he's Muslim, and how can he, condemn this because it'll feed into anti-Muslim stereotypes and anti-Muslim hatred. And no, I'm sorry. I'm calling BS on that. I'm throwing the flag. It's actually quite the opposite. It's quite the opposite. Mayor Zohran Mamdani actually had a really important opportunity right there that he deliberately and specifically let go by. He didn't even attempt to do what he could have done. Imagine how powerful it would have been if he had said, listen, I'm the mayor of this city. My name is Zohran Mamdani. I'm Muslim. I practice the faith of Islam, and it disgusts me to my core that these dirtbag attempted murderers screamed Allahu Akbar when they threw that bomb. It disgusts me. It betrays my faith. It betrays everything I believe in. And they should be hung from the highest building in this town to demonstrate to anyone else who wants to do this, to those scumbag ISIS, to those dirtbag murderous Hamas, and everyone in between, that it won't be tolerated. Just because I'm a Muslim doesn't mean that it's open season on non-Muslims in this city. See, he had an opportunity to do that, and he didn't. I wonder why he didn't take that opportunity. Would have been great, right? Would have been powerful. It would have been, it could be any extremism, could be any ideology. But when it's done in the name of my religion and my faith, I take that personally. And I'm going to be tougher on them than anyone else. Now, he didn't do that, though, did he? He didn't do that. Boy, it would have been great if he did. He didn't do that because I think, sadly, he probably spends too much time watching this program on CNN.
Is there a line anywhere right now on Capitol Hill or elsewhere in the Republican movement when it comes to anti-Muslim?
I can't speak for Mike Johnson, but I would say we've had 2 terrorist attacks here in the last 10 days.
What does that have to do with Muslims?
So can we condemn those? Why are we?
Of course. What does that have to do with Muslims?
What does that have to do with Muslims?
There is a radical strain of Islam that's led to these terrorist attacks.
There are
obviously the vast majority of Muslims are
people
peaceful.
with terroristic ideologies here and all around the world. What does that have to do with whether Muslims belong in American society as a group?
So, again, no one is saying that Muslims don't belong in America as a group in this country, all right? Or at least I'm not saying that. There could very well be people who are saying that. You're not hearing that from me or here. But that's not even the point. Here, God bless her. Oh, what's her name again? I'm sorry, Kevin. Help me out. I love the work she does at New York Post. Lydia Moynihan, thank you. She's at the New York Post, and she's great. So she says, could we at least speak the truth about the 2 terrorist attacks we just had in the last 10 days? And Abby Phillips, a newswoman, she's got a journalism degree. She's highly paid for CNN, actually said, well, what does that got to do with Muslims? I mean, they pledged allegiance to ISIS and yelled Allahu Akbar as they threw their bombs. And Abby Phillips wants to know what it has to do with Muslims. And forgive me, but I'm pretty sure after January 6th, Abby Phillips didn't say, well, what has this got to do with people who support Donald Trump? I'm pretty sure that's not the point she made. And please, don't flame me for comparing January 6th to a radical Muslim attack in New York where people could have been murdered, innocent people, because trust me, what happened in New York is way more dangerous than January 6th. I'm just raising the point because from her perspective, she would never form those words. Well, this has nothing to do with Donald Trump or people who support Donald Trump. But yet she's the first person. Does she not know the facts of the case of what happened in New York? Possibly. Because we've got a couple of other moments from this program, and that one right there isn't even the worst. Let's go to Ana Navarro, who was engaging, and the same, again, I watched this and I think that I'm in an alternate universe. Watch.
Ironic is, so supposedly some of these comments are as a result of the attempt against Mayor Mamdani in New York, who was raised Muslim, was he not? Himself. Yeah. So they're being anti-Muslim and they're finally defending Mamdani over something.
To be clear, the attack wasn't on Mayor Mamdani. It was on people protesting. It was attacking protesters, people protesting Mamdani.
Right by his house.
It was to frame it as an anti-Muslim attack would actually completely reverse what happened. Someone who shouted
I'm not saying that it was
Allah
anti-Muslim.
Akbar
I'm saying that
threw a bomb that didn't go off at the protesters.
Republicans are finally doing something.
Okay, so I have no idea the point Ana Navarro was trying to make, but the point she did make was that in some way the terror attack in New York was against Zoran Mamdani because he's Muslim. And Borelli there, Joe Borelli had to step in and say, the attack wasn't against Zoran Mamdani. And you heard Navarro say, well, it was against his house. Again, not his house. People of New York City's house. They own it. They pay for it. He just gets to live there. But even still, it wasn't against his house. The bombs were not thrown at Zoran Mamdani's house. The bombs were not thrown at Gracie Mansion. Gracie Mansion was over here. The protesters were across the street over here, and the bomb was thrown over here at the protesters, trying to blow up the protesters, the innocent New Yorkers who were exercising their First Amendment speech rights. The bomb was not thrown at the mayor. The bomb had nothing to do with the mayor. The guys who threw the bomb share the same religious faith as the mayor. They weren't going after him because he's Muslim. They weren't going after him at all. Ana Navarro is a paid news person from 2 different outlets, ABC News and CNN. And she's either lying to the audience or she is completely idiotic when it comes to the basic facts of this case. But you have to forgive her. if it is the latter, and she is idiotic and moronic and ignorant and misinformed or ill-informed about this case, it may be because she gets her news from CNN, most specifically from Abby Phillip at CNN. Because just before that segment you just saw and those two clips we gave you, Abby Phillip ended the previous segment through to commercial with this.
2 Republicans say Muslims don't belong here after an attempted terror attack against New York's Mayor Zohran Mamdani, and the House Speaker Mike Johnson says nothing really to condemn those comments. Another special guest is going to be with us at the table when we come. 2 Republicans.
Okay, so you heard that. Let me do a Larry here on this. We like to call it doing a Larry, where I play a little clip and I break it down and interrupt, which I do a lot. Real fast. The segment that she's teasing is...
And say Muslims don't belong here after...
2 Republicans say Muslims don't belong here, which, by the way, just in terms of an editorial choice, they're not doing a segment on the terror attacks where 2 guys affiliated with ISIS in America, both of them naturalized from 2 different countries, Afghanistan and Turkey, went up to New York with incendiary devices, lit the fuses, screamed Aloha Akbar, and tried to blow up New Yorkers. That we don't get a segment about. No need to dwell on that. No need to talk about that. No need to analyze that and break it down. No. The segment we want to talk about is 2 congressmen who said, I don't even know what their statements were, saying that they don't belong in American society. Although it's funny, if you look at the Chiron, GOP lawmaker says Muslims, quote, don't belong in American society. Why isn't the quote around Muslims? Because something tells me that's not actually what he said. Could it be that he was referring to terrorists? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not even here to talk about that. Because I think the bigger story is that we have 2 naturalized citizens from foreign countries who pledge allegiance to ISIS and tried to blow up innocent people in New York. But no, we're going to talk about the 2 Republicans. Okay, so the 2 Republicans say Muslims don't belong in American society, allegedly, according to Abby Phillip. And then what now?
Attempted terror attack against New York's Mayor Zohran Mamdani and the House.
A terror attack against New York's Mayor Zohran Mamdani. I mean, I'd say you can't make this stuff up, but she literally just made that up. There was no terror attack against New York's Mayor Zohran Mamdani. And I guess that's why Ana Navarro just repeated the exact same thing in the other clip that we showed you, because that happened after the clip I just showed you. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. If you watch CNN, you are not getting news. And in fact, if you watch CNN, you are literally getting disinformation, misinformation, and lies. And the fact of the matter is, Abby Phillip has 2 paths she can take here. 3 paths. She can either first claim that she has no idea what the actual news events are surrounding the bombing in New York, that she just doesn't have any independent intelligence and knowledge of what occurred, okay? Or she can say that she's just a stupid Ron Burgundy teleprompter reader, and you can put anything in that freaking thing, and she'll just read it off. Or she can say that she deliberately lied to her audience. There is no 4th option. It's one of those 3 or any combination therein. And so we have her answer. Which one do you think it is, by the way? Go ahead and let us know, because we have the answer. After that segment and that clip went viral, she has, again, put out a statement this morning. Let's read it together, shall we? I want to correct something I said last night. Oh, good. The bombs thrown in New York City over the weekend by ISIS-inspired attackers was thrown into a crowd of anti-Muslim protesters. Why do they have to say anti-Muslim protesters? Why can't it just be protesters? By putting that modifier in there, it sort of implies that, well, they had it coming, right? I mean, they sort of were asking for it. That's the only reason you put that modifier in there. That's fine. Anti-Muslim protesters, and not specifically targeted at Mayor Mamdani. What do you mean not specifically targeted? Not even obliquely targeted to Mayor Mamdani. It wasn't even in the direction of Mayor Mamdani. That's fine. That wording was inaccurate, and I didn't catch it ahead of time. I apologize for the error. Okay, so let's just be clear here. She's admitting that she delivered misinformation. By saying, I didn't catch it ahead of time, she's acknowledging that it was written down in the teleprompter. That's how you would have caught it ahead of time. And so she's admitting that she just read it and didn't stop as she saw those words saying, wait a second, that's not right. She just let it go. And when they came back and did the intervening segment, she didn't correct herself on the air. It wasn't until the next morning that she corrected herself. So what were our three options? She's ignorant of the actual facts of the case. I don't see anything here that suggests otherwise. Otherwise, she would have corrected it in real time, right? Okay. Second option was she's Ron Burgundy and she just reads whatever's on the teleprompter. She's admitting it. I didn't catch it ahead of time. She didn't catch it in real time because she's Ron Burgundy. Or number three, she just lies to her audience. Well, up until she put this statement out, I guess the third one would apply too. I report, you decide. Either way, a banner moment in journalism for Abby Phillips, which, by the way, brings this moment really, really into light, doesn't it? Do you remember this? This was about 2-3 months ago. She appeared on the Joy Reid podcast. Our buddy Curtis Houck over at Media Research Center likes to refer to Abby Phillips as Joy Reid with an inside voice. And it's the perfect description because there really isn't a lot of daylight between the two of them. Let's not forget, as you explore and we dissect exactly what just happened on Abby Phillips' show and the damnable lie that she just told her audience and the ignorance that she has of basic facts. And that ignorance always seems to float in one political direction. Have you noticed that? Let's not forget what she said her job is when she hosts that panel show on CNN.
Conservatives are living in a completely different information world
Absolutely.
than liberals. And breaking that down needs to be done. Because when you don't ever even hear the facts, it's hard to even know that you're wrong. And that happens a lot. I think that one time that that person brings up something that is debunked and false, and I debunk it at the table, might be the very first time that someone out there has heard an alternative point of view.
There you go. That's what her job is. Her job is to debunk all of the misinformation that conservatives hear all the time. Her job is to be the voice of reason and truth and fact at the table, because when she debunks a lie that is told at the table, or misinformation or disinformation, for a lot of those viewers, for a lot of those conservatives at the table, it's the first time they heard that fact. It's the first time they heard the truth. Thank you, Abby Phillips. We need you on that wall. Thank God you're there to do all of that real-time fact-checking. Just that little hint. Next time before the show, you might want to go over the script in the teleprompter, because the disinformation is coming from inside your own head. Coming up in 1 minute, what happened when an open border proponent smugly testified before a Republican Senate committee? It was ugly, and it was beautiful. Just wait till you see John Kennedy. That's coming up in just a moment. But first, as Operation Epic Fury intensifies, the world braces for what comes next. And people of faith, we're praying. We're praying for freedom and for God's people to be protected. In the Holy Land, red alert sirens fill the air, sirens that give you 15 seconds to reach the nearest bomb shelter. The situation is serious and the threat is very real. In times like this, freedom and faith aren't just abstract ideas, they're what we depend upon. And the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is on the ground, preparing large-scale distributions of life-saving food, first aid, and emergency essentials for security personnel, while helping ensure hospitals, emergency rooms, and shelters are stocked with critical medical supplies. This aid is focused on Israel's most vulnerable, the sick, the elderly, children, and families in great need. But the fellowship needs your most generous gift today to make this work possible. Now's your time to stand with Israel's most vulnerable. To rush your gift, call 888-488-IFCJ. That's 888-488-IFCJ, or just go online at ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org. John Kennedy, senator from Louisiana, had an open borders advocate in his crosshairs yesterday in a Senate hearing, and the results, well, it's video gold, as the good senator of Louisiana often delivers. We're going to show you that clip coming up in a moment. But before we got to Kennedy, we had some other senators who wanted a piece of this guy. Watch first with Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, where he made the point about sanctuary policies. Watch this guy from Cato Institute, the libertarian group. They love open borders. They literally do not want to have a border in the United States. Watch what happens.
650,000 people that are at large in America have committed crimes. 15,000 murderers, 20,000 rapists. Ms. Spear, you're shaking your head.
They're not at large. The murderers are in prison.
They're not
in prison where they should be.
They're not detained.
Yes, again, they're detained by the state. They're not detained by ICE. They're in prisons ready to be deported. Now, I don't...
Ms. Vaughn.
Okay, well, so now hold on a second here. First of all, I want to know the details of those numbers, all right? Because, first of all, we know for a fact that there are murderers and there are rapists and there are other criminals who are at large and wandering the streets because they've been released by sanctuary jurisdictions, right? They work, and also we know for a fact that there are murderers and there are rapists and there are pedophiles and there are other criminals who crossed our border during Joe Biden's administration. They checked in, they were stopped by Border Patrol. They divulged who they were, and any trace back to their home country shows that they are criminals from those countries, and the Biden administration let them roam free in this country. That's who Tom Homan and ICE have been trying to detain. But let's take Smug Boy here's premise here, if we want to accept it, where it's like they're not roaming free, they're in prison. Well, the sanctuary policies that he supports will allow them to walk free the second they get their cashless bail or their prosecutor who won't press charges, or if they serve their time. There's a detainer. They're supposed to be held until ICE can take them into custody and deport them. But instead, thanks to this guy's policies and all the other open border crowd, they'll just be let to roam free. So they might as well be roaming free because he makes no distinction. So I'm sorry, sir, Smuggy McSmugster, but you're not proving the point you think you're proving. All right, now more on this guy in a minute, but first some sober reality here from Jessica Fawn. Now, she's the executive director of the Center for Immigration Studies, and she is going to focus on a couple of different issues, but first, Fairfax County, Virginia, where the prosecutor there, the sheriff's office there, and all of the Democrats who run Fairfax County refuse to cooperate with ICE. Listen to what happens when your local law enforcement will not cooperate with ICE.
The individual jails that released the most were Santa Clara County, California, Cook County, Illinois, and Fairfax County, Virginia. In 2024 alone, the Fairfax County Sheriff declined to honor 744 detainers for criminals that she had in custody. That's more than 2 a day. Some of these are gang members with long rap sheets who get arrested over and over, costing county taxpayers untold sums in repeated crimes, prosecution, and incarceration. Others are child predators and sex offenders. Oregon is another place that protects criminal aliens with strict sanctuary policies. Last fall, ICE actually had to issue subpoenas just to try to get 4 Oregon sheriffs to share information on violent felons who had been released despite ICE detainers. They had convictions for rape, assault, child exploitation, and kidnapping, among other crimes. What possible reason can there be for not cooperating with ICE for their removal? It's certainly not a public safety reason.
No, it's not a public safety reason. It's a political reason because Orange Man bad. Let's just be clear here, what she just laid out. First of all, over 700 criminals who were illegal aliens in custody just in 2024 in Fairfax County, Virginia, were released out into the public. Over 2 a day. Because law enforcement in Fairfax County are prohibited by law in that county from even communicating with ICE, with immigration enforcement at the federal level. And that was back when Joe Biden was president. That was when ICE was warm and fuzzy and nice and wonderful. and just handed out flowers and candy to children. So here's the scenario that happens, because, see, this sort of thing doesn't happen, 100 miles west of Fairfax County when you cross the border into West Virginia. Here's what happens in West Virginia. They got a murderer. They got a rapist. They got a child predator. And he's in the country illegally. And it raises a flag. And a little light goes off. And it says, he's an illegal immigrant. There's an ICE detainer for this guy. And he's about to get released, either because he served his time or because he's out on bail or whatever it is. And what they do is they say, hold on a minute, Sheriff. Let's coordinate with ICE. And they call the people at ICE. And they have a conversation with ICE. And they say, we got this guy. Do you know who he is? And they oh, let me run a number on him. Oh, yeah, we know who that guy is. Well, he's got an ICE detainer. He's got a detainer for deportation. And the local law enforcement in West Virginia says, oh, great. So when can you be here? And they said, oh, we can be there tomorrow. And they said, okay, well, great. We'll hold on to him until you get there tomorrow. And then they come tomorrow and they pick him up. And in the jailhouse, they take off his handcuffs, the West Virginia police handcuffs, and then they put on the federal handcuffs from ICE, and then they walk him out the door, and then he gets deported. That's how it happens in any sane, rational, normal, functioning territory in the United States of America. But in Washington, D.C.'s backyard, in Fairfax County, Virginia, that conversation never happens. Here's what happens. Hey, Sheriff, we're supposed to release this guy today. The rapist? Yeah, but he's in the country illegally. We've got a detainer. Should we call ICE and have him deported? And the sheriff says, oh, hell no. No. Let's not hand him over to ICE. Let's not have him be deported. Let's release him. And let's just hope and pray that he doesn't go straight to the playground or the local park or hang out outside the Orange Therapy gym. Let's just hope and pray. Oh, wait, what am I saying? We're Democrats in power in Fairfax County, Virginia. We don't pray. That's the difference. And it's for politics. Now, I know what you're going to hear from your liberal brother-in-law at dinner. It's like, oh, not all illegal immigrants are criminals. True enough. Although you could also make the argument that all illegal immigrants have at least broken one law. Whether that makes them a criminal or not, or certainly a violent criminal, the kind of criminal that even Democrats pretend to care about, is another thing. So, all right, let's accept the premise. That's true. I guess that's true. But I can guarantee you this. Every single illegal immigrant who rapes or murders or child molests or kidnaps or shoplifts is not supposed to be here. And if they were deported before they could commit their crime, well, that's a person who's now alive because the law was enforced. Or it's a person who does not have to suffer from being sexually assaulted for the rest of her life because our law was enforced. It's a child who was not abused because our law was enforced. I'm sorry, what exactly is the logical, reasonable reason that you're not enforcing the law that would have prevented those crimes from happening? Please, I'll give you all the time in the world. Explain to me why we're not enforcing our laws this way. But the testimony yesterday wasn't just about the criminals and the, in my opinion, criminal behavior of those Democrats who refuse to follow our laws and cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. No, it was also about just your good old-fashioned illegal immigrant who comes here for a better life, gets a job, and just wants to contribute to society. You know, those are the ones we hear about all the time, right? Okay, well, Ms. Vaughn had something to say about them, too.
Sanctuary states typically have other policies that attract illegal settlement and thus burden taxpayers with support of illegal immigrants. Besides funding emergency health care and schooling for all, a number of sanctuary states go farther and choose to provide Medicaid, subsidized health insurance, nutrition assistance, housing, and much more. Illegal immigrants use these welfare programs in large numbers. My organization has found that over 60% of illegal alien-headed households are using at least one form of welfare program, and usually more than one, at a cost of tens of billions of dollars to taxpayers. This is why any resources spent on immigration enforcement actually save taxpayers money.
Correct. So I hope you caught that. Over 60% of illegal immigrants in this country are getting one form of welfare, at least one form of welfare. Over 60% of them. And that's not even time limited about how long they've been here. In some cases, they've been here 10 years and they're getting that welfare still. Over 60%. All right, that brings us to the man, one of our favorites here from the great state of Louisiana. Take it away, Senator John Kennedy.
Don't you think your hyperbolic statements undermine your credibility?
What hyperbolic statement did I make?
On February the 11th, 2026, you posted on Bluesky, quote, my words, or your words, not mine. The Democrats' video telling service members to ignore illegal orders didn't go far enough. They should have also urged them to refuse unethical orders, whether illegal or not. There are many things deemed legal that are still obviously unethical, and everyone should hold themselves to this higher law, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
I believe you did. Do you disagree with it? You think people should do unethical things in their capacity?
On December the 31st of 2025, you posted to in front of God.
But wait.
In front of,
do you disagree with what
let
I
me
said?
finish my question.
I'm
You
sorry.
answered, sir.
Sure.
In front of God and country. You said, quote, they, referring to Republicans, think they can troll their way into us accepting ethnic cleansing, end quote. Your words, not mine. Did I read that correctly?
That was in regard to a
Did I
Department of
read that?
Homeland
Did I
Security
read
post
that?
about advocating 100 million deportations. That is what DHS has tweeted from their own account. 100 million deportations
hurts, doesn't
would
it?
be ethnic cleansing. You would be
Truth hurts,
removing
doesn't it?
1/3 of the country. So yes, there
Truth
are
can
people
just
within the
gut you like a
Department of
fish.
Homeland
And
Security.
you don't think this is hyperbolic? Give me 30 more seconds.
I think advocating 100 million
I'm having,
deportations
I'm
is
having fun here, Mr.
ethnic
Chairman.
cleansing.
On February
Yes.
5th, you quoted you said the following on Bluesky.
Your time's
Quote,
up.
these are all good, but there's no enforcement mechanism. I'm sorry. Let me try a better one. On March 2nd, you said, quote, if you rule against Trump's population purge agenda, no hyperbole there, the nativists will name you, threaten you, and come after you. These judges are much braver than the ICE agents who hide behind masks while violating the Constitution.
They are
Close
much
quote.
braver. They put their names on their rulings and they stand behind their constitutional rulings. When I talk about population purge, I'm talking about the fact that they're trying to deport U.S.-born citizens, people born here. They are trying to deport them as well. So it's not a mass deportation agenda. It is also an agenda intended to reduce the population of the United States, including U.S.-born people.
thank
So
you.
these are not
Wait.
hyperbolic statements. I appreciate you reading my account. I appreciate
Here's
your
the good
research.
news.
What planet did you just, wait a minute, Mr. Chairman,
Wait.
what planet did you just parachute in from?
No. Hey, guys.
You trigger my gag reflex, Mr. Beaver.
You trigger my gag reflex. God, he is good. By the way, that last part, obviously, fabulous. You trigger my gag reflex. And his smugness is like, yes, I'm proud of what I said. It is ethnic cleansing. But I think ultimately, because I've got a quirky sense of humor, I think my favorite part is that he kept referring to blue sky as Bluesky. You wrote last month on Bluesky. What the fuck is Bluesky? That's amazing. I make fun of Cato Institute a lot here. I make fun of libertarians a lot here. And, well, that guy's the reason why. That is in a world where you need to go to a think tank to understand policies regarding immigration in America, you got two paths, ladies and gentlemen. You can go the Cato path with that guy, or you can go the Center for Immigration Studies path with people who understand the law and actually understand logic and ethics and morality and, well, what makes a nation a great nation. That would not be Cato Institute, I regret to inform you. One last back and forth here. This one was Senator Moreno of Ohio, because this guy, he was just not letting go. This was his moment, man. And I have no doubt he's going to get some sort of offer from the next administration, to be sure.
Do you think that we made a mistake passing that law that prohibits people from entering this country illegally?
No, I don't think that's a mistake.
Sheriff, do you believe we made a mistake passing that law?
No, I don't think so.
Ms. Vaughn?
No.
Rhea?
It was a mistake to not let them come legally. That's what we need.
But that's not what the law said. The law said you can't enter the country illegally. Was that
There were
part,
definitely mistakes in the INA.
Was that
Many
part,
mistakes.
Don't be cute. Was that part of the law a mistake? Yes or no?
The part of the law that says you can't come legally, yes, that was a mistake.
That was a mistake that you can't come illegally.
No, legally. Legally is what I said.
Okay. So you haven't answered my question, but that's okay. You're a smug guy, and that's part of your shtick. Do you think
it's part of your shtick? It is his shtick. It's his personality. You caught that, right? He's saying, no, the mistake was not the law that said they shouldn't come illegally. The law was that we didn't let them come legally. They don't want immigration laws. Cato Institute libertarians, not all libertarians, and I shouldn't paint with a broad brush, but the people who are safe within the ivory towers that they built for themselves with people's donations, thinking that all they were going to focus on was free market principles and legalizing pot. And they did raise a lot of money, the Cato Institute did, making sure the pot was legal. Follow that money with your gummies. People like him who sit in those ivory towers that they made with all of that money that they raised think very differently than, Jim and Joe college dorm dudes who love to live in a utopian world of libertarianism. But these guys actually take it seriously. They don't want there to be laws regulating our border. They think that the ultimate in free market thought is that you have as much cheap labor as you want flooding into this country, and it's all going to be wonderful. They never say anything about all of the benefits and the drain that goes into it. I mean, they'll say, no, well, they shouldn't be getting any benefits. But they do, pal. They do. So I'll tell you what, until we actually arrest the criminals and put them behind bars for good, and we stop giving free benefits to all of the people who come here illegally, we're not going to go with your plan to just have no borders whatsoever, okay? The second you get rid of the welfare state that supports all of the people who come here illegally and drain our economy so it's not a free market, then we can entertain your idea of doing away with borders and doing away with immigration laws. But until then, dude, you just sound like you're stoned. Or libertarian. Potato. But there you go. That's Smuggy McSmugster with his day on Capitol Hill. Boy, oh boy. Choose wisely who you align yourself with, my friends. Choose very, very wisely. Think about this now. In 2006, $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. That was just 20 years ago. At today's prices, 20 years later, those same 33 ounces would be worth over $150,000. Many Americans diversify a portion of their savings into precious metals. Gold can insulate you in times of war, geopolitical instability, and high inflationary periods. And the company I recommend to help you buy gold is Birch Gold Group. See if holding gold in a tax-sheltered retirement account is right for you, too. Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. Just text my name, Larry, to the number 989898, and you'll receive your free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. They've got an A+ with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers. Let Birch Gold help you diversify with gold. And now that can be the peace of mind you're looking for. Text my name, Larry, to 989898. Again, text Larry to 989898. Message and data rates may apply. And that's it for today's show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing to our channel. And thanks for liking this video. We very much appreciate it. Let's get to your super chats, if you don't mind. Oh, before we do, I'm filling in for Sean Spicer on the Sean Spicer Show tonight. So whatever platform you're watching us on, go over, check out Sean Spicer's account, and watch tonight at 6 p.m. I'll be on tonight. Thank you for that. All right, let's get to your super chats. Angela, child of God, $5 super chat. Abscess Abby spews lies with her mouth, then posts a retraction because she knows left-wing nutjobs can't read anything but pre-made protest signs. You know, that's a great point. I wonder if she posted that retraction on Bluesky. We should check that out over at Bluesky. Bluesky, that's the Polish social media platform, isn't it? Bluesky. Angela with a $5 super chat. About 80% of America wants Save America Act. Two spineless things, snakes and rhinos. Call Thune and tell him what he is. Demand talking filibuster. Thank you, Angela. Seems like good politics to me, but what do I know? Angela, $2 super chat. Up Chuck Schumer makes me want to puke. Well, that says it all. Thank you, Angela. Angela's very busy today. God's best friend, £2 super chat. Larry, your response for the last Galactic Post. Kevin.
Yes.
And I'm using you for cover here, and I apologize for doing that to you. But can you tell God's best friend what my last week has been like?
Larry has been a little bit busy, so you'll have to forgive him.
I am burning the corner at 1,000 different ends, my friend, and I apologize. I feel terrible. I did get your email. I will reply. I cannot say that I'm going to today because, Kevin, can you tell God's best friend what the rest of my day is looking like?
Larry is going to continue to be very busy at the end of this day.
It has been wall to wall. I may have bitten off more than I could chew. I'm not going to lie. I've got a lot going on right now. But this weekend is looking a little bit better. By the time I get to Friday, God's best friend, I promise I will be able to read your Galactic Post and reply. James Venot with a $20 super chat. Thank you, James. Awesome, amazing fact, Larry. Thank you, sir. Deport political terrorists. Which fact is he referring to? Do you know? About the truth behind the terror attack in New York? I'm guessing that's what it was. Thank you, James, for the $20 super chat. Stumble Boots, $5 super chat. I'm starting my vacation today, but I'll swing by when I can. Also, my girlfriend says hi. Hi, Stumble Boots girlfriend. I don't remember. Did Garfield have a girlfriend? I can't remember. Oh, yeah, it was the cat with the eyelashes. Jasmine Crockett thing. We'll look forward to you. GBF, £2. Allah is bigger in New York. Everything's bigger in New York. Jeff Depew, $5 super chat. We all know Larry is a humble man, but as far as what Rush Limbaugh used to do, Larry is so spot on. That makes Kevin a Bo Snerdley past the SAVE Act. Wow. I balk at even the most minor comparison to Rush Limbaugh. We have only two things in common in terms of our talent and our ability. We're both on the radio, on the same radio station, by the way, and we're both men. But beyond that, Rush Limbaugh is a god. Stacy Lavish with those wedges, 222. Love you, Larry. Keep doing your magic. Thank you. I appreciate it. God's best friend, £2 super chat. Whose side is the Islamic State of New York? Whose side is the Islamic State of New York? Ball State alum, $10 super chat. I align with SMOD. Do we know what SMOD is? I align with SMOD.
I do know what this one is. This stands for the Sweet Meteor of Death.
That's right. Sweet Meteor of Death. Thank you, Ball State alum. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Yeah, God's best friend, £2 super chat. Know his biz in South Lebanon. Bye. Oh, did Hezbollah get creamed out today in Lebanon? Did I miss that? GBF, £2. You are slightly forgiven. I appreciate that. I will beg for atonement on a regular basis, not just on Yom Kippur, because we do it differently here in Catholic land. And that is the end of that super chat. Thank you very much for that. And thank you very much for watching. We're done, right? Are we done?
Yeah.
On to the next thing. Kevin, I will see you very soon at the town hall. We got a lot of work to do at town hall. In fact, I happen to know that there are two executives in the town hall management offices watching right now saying, sign off, Larry. We need you in this meeting. So I'm signing off. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. My name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.